Despite economic sanctions from their fellow countrymen, Georgian refugees were returning to Abkhazia from 2000 up until recently. Construction engineer Pater Ablotia returned with his mother and brother to his home in the Galsky district of Abkhazia 8 years after fleeing the area.
I cried when I came back. Tears were rolling down my face. First thing I did, I embraced this tree that my father planted. I embraced it like this, and I cried. And my brother did the same.
We even kissed the stairs. The restoration is painfully slow. There isn't enough money to restore the house. Building is difficult, as the country spent more than 15 years in an economic blockade. But what is most important, the garden has been restored, and the trees were planted by Pater's father.
I'm nervous too. It's like another life has begun for me, a new one. New friends, new relationships. They are hard to establish. It's all difficult, but we need to move on.
Fortunately, Pater didn't have to become a refugee again, despite the Georgian aggression against South Ossetia in August 2008 and the ensuing tension in Georgian-Abkhazian relations. Pater goes on about restoring his house. Unlike him, many refugees were afraid to return to their homes because of continuing attacks on the border. One of the latest incidents happened in the town of Gali. A bomb planted under a bench in an open-air cafe took the lives of 4 people. A UN officer was among them.
This is the face of the Georgian democracy that the West has been touting and that the President of Georgia has been talking about. This is the democracy. Such democracy usually leads to one thing: chaos in one's country.
During that bombing, 2 officers from the Abkhazian security service were seriously wounded, and they later died in hospital. For many years, those who fought in the last war are being hunted down by the so-called White Legion, consisting of Georgians who previously lived in Abkhazia. The leader of the legion, Surab Samashir, currently lives in Tbilisi.
The Abkhazian officials who were in command and gave orders are all eligible for liquidation by us. This is because they are criminals and have no right to speak freely.
After the emergence of the White Legion and other groups, more than 100 Russian peacekeepers have died on the Georgian-Abkhazian border. Those units appeared in the region right after the end of the war and settled on the line of divide between the belligerent parties. The peacekeepers' main mission is to prevent weapons from being smuggled into the border zone.
I visually inspect the contents without touching anything. The locals are used to it. They open their bags and trunks themselves to show me what's inside.
After Mikhail Saakashvili's rise to power, several provocations were plotted against Russian peacekeepers. One of the most resonating cases took place in 2007, when the Georgian military deployed a boot camp several hundred meters away from the border to give military training to Georgian youth. After the peacekeepers demanded that the camp be removed, the Georgian president Mikhail Saakashvili showed up, and the conflict nearly ended in an exchange of fire.
Take all of your peacekeepers back right now. Never let them come back here again. We issued an order to fight back with everything that we have. You are well aware that we have enough power.
The main goal of such actions is to have the Russian contingent replaced by police forces from states that actively support Saakashvili's policy.
When there were murders and Russian peacekeepers lost over 100 people, nobody even came close to the conflict zone. However, as soon as the situation stabilized and Abkhazia began moving towards independence, lots of goody-goody Westerners suddenly showed up saying, "We'll establish order here with international peacekeeping forces." We saw this so-called order in Kosovo and Serbia.
Several months before the invasion in South Ossetia, the Abkhazian armed forces were put on alert. This happened after Abkhazian intelligence had gained access to a plan of actually overtaking Abkhazia, created by Georgia's general staff.
This is the scheme. Special operations squads have the objectives of blocking the peacekeepers' block posts and Abkhazian block posts. At the same time, landing parties were supposed to be deployed in the towns of Gagra, Sukhum and Achamchira to destroy our army. In general, Georgia's army has 11 times more personnel than the army of the Republic of Abkhazia.
The plan to invade Abkhazia was thwarted. After that, Georgia aimed its blow at South Ossetia, but the outcome was quite the opposite of what had been expected. Tskhinval lies in ruins. The capital of South Ossetia is a shadow of its former self, against a background of the dead, the injured, refugees, and the final collapse of negotiations. The summary of a hidden war that became a very public affair.
The Caucasus is such an ecological system, where every shot fired will long reverberate in the mountains. That's why our position is that war is out of the question. We don't see how people who don't want to be with Georgia can be forced to be a part of Georgia.
The attack was repelled, Georgian troops driven out of the area, and Abkhazia and South Ossetia were soon officially recognized by Russia as independent states. Now, both in South Ossetia and Abkhazia, the first steps towards a new life are being taken. Painfully and slowly, but there's still hope.